There lived in an ancient kingdom called Nadran. It had palaces, orchards, fields, trees, markets, houses, and buildings. An extraordinary 13-year-old boy with exceptional intelligence. The king chose him from among thousands of people after the recommendation of the kingdom's magician, who wanted to teach magic to a smart boy. The magician began teaching him the arts of magic, but the boy's heart was drawn to the teachings of a kind monk who lived in a hermitage on the outskirts of the kingdom. The monk taught the boy the values of brotherhood and peace, instilling in his heart a love for people. One day, while the boy was on his way to the magician's house, he encountered a huge bear-like monster that had terrified the kingdom's inhabitants. People fled in all directions, while the boy's heart prayed to God to save them. In a rare moment of courage, the boy grabbed a small stone and said, "Oh God, if you love the monk, save us from the monster." He then threw the small stone toward the monster, which immediately fell. The people rejoiced at the boy's talent, and news spread throughout the kingdom and reached the king. The boy stayed with the monk, realizing that God loves good people, while he shuns evil people, like a magician. The monk said to him, "Today you are better than me in God's eyes." The boy grew closer to God, praying secretly in his room and developing supernatural powers. One day in the royal court, a wealthy blind man, one of the king's courtiers, asked the boy to restore his sight. Thanks to the boy's faith and closeness to God, he prayed to God and touched the man's face, and his sight was restored. The king was amazed by this miracle and asked him, "How did you do it?" He confidently replied, "It was God's power." He believed that the strength of his faith and love for the one God in his heart had enabled him to do so. The king was enraged because he had been telling people that he was a god. He said, "How dare you worship a god other than me?" The king ordered the soldiers to torture the boy until he confessed where he had learned these things. Thus, the boy confessed his relationship with the monk. The king tortured the monk until his death. The king tried to convince the boy to come to his senses and stop what he was saying, but he refused. The king ordered his soldiers to take the boy to a high mountain and give him the choice of throwing him off the mountain or returning to his faith in the king. In a moment of faith and steadfastness, the boy asked God to save him. The soldiers fell from the mountain. The boy returned to the king unharmed. The king was astonished and asked him how he had escaped the soldiers. His anger grew. The king ordered another group of soldiers to put the boy in a ship and give him the choice of either giving up his thoughts or being drowned. The boy prayed to God to save him, but the soldiers drowned and he returned unharmed. The king failed in any way to eliminate the boy. Then the boy asked him to gather the people of the city in a large square, tie the boy to a palm tree, and shoot an arrow at him, provided he says, "In the name of God, the Lord of this boy." The arrow then flew out and struck his cheek, causing him to die. At that moment, the people were agitated and revolted, all saying, "We believe in the Lord of the boy." The king was furious and ordered his soldiers to dig trenches in the ground, place dry tree branches in them, and set them on fire. They then threw the believers into the fire. As a woman approached the fire with her child, she feared for herself and her infant and tried to back down and surrender to the king's wishes. But the infant said to her, "Stand firm, mother, you are right.